Why is Russia asking North Korea for help? How close are the countries? Here is a look of the rocky history of the two countries. 1945 to 1948. Japan's colonial rule over the Korean peninsula comes to an end with Tokyo's defeat in World War II in 1945. However, the peninsula is eventually divided into a Soviet-supported North and a US-supported South. The Soviet military installs Kim Il-sung, a former guerrilla leader who fought against Japanese forces in Manchuria, as the leader in the North. 1950 to 1953. Kim Il-sung's forces launch a surprise attack on the South in June 1950, sparking the Korean War. The conflict draws in troops from the newly established People's Republic of China, with support from the Soviet Air Force. South Korea, the United States, and other UN-affiliated nations engage in a struggle to repel the invasion. The fighting comes to a halt in 1953 with an armistice, leaving the Korean peninsula technically at war. Mid-1950s through 1960s, the Soviet Union continues providing economic and military assistance to North Korea, but relations sour as Kim Il-sung purges pro-Soviet and pro-Chinese factions within the North's leadership to consolidate his power. Moscow reduces its aid but doesn't fully terminate it until the end of the Cold War. 1970s. Amid escalating rivalry between the Soviet Union and China, North Korea adopts an equidistance policy, exploiting the hostilities between the communist giants to secure more aid from both. Pyongyang also tries to reduce its reliance on Moscow and Beijing, but a series of policy failures following heavy borrowing from international financial markets plunges the North Korean economy into chaos for decades. 1980s. With Mikhail Gorbachev's rise to power, the Soviet Union begins cutting aid to North Korea and seeks reconciliation with South Korea. Seoul expands diplomatic ties with communist nations in Eastern Europe, leaving Pyongyang increasingly isolated. 1990s. The 1991 collapse of the Soviet Union deprives North Korea of its primary economic and security benefactor. The post-communist government in Moscow, led by President Boris Yeltsin, shows little interest in continuing aid and subsidized trade with North Korea. Moscow establishes formal diplomatic relations with Seoul to attract South Korean investments and lets its Soviet-era military alliance with North Korea expire. Kim Il-sung passes away in 1994, and North Korea suffers a devastating famine later in the decade, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of thousands due to mass starvation. Early 2000s. Following his election as president in 2000, Vladimir Putin actively seeks to restore Russia's relations with North Korea. Putin visits Pyongyang in July of that year to meet with Kim Jong-il, the second-generation North Korean leader. The two leaders jointly criticize U.S. missile defense plans. This visit signifies Russia's intention to regain its traditional spheres of influence as tensions between Moscow and the West escalate over key security issues. Putin hosts Kim Jong-il for subsequent meetings in Russia in 2001 and 2002. Mid to late 2000s, despite warmer relations, Russia supports UN Security Council sanctions against North Korea twice over its emerging nuclear weapons and missile program. Russia participates in talks aimed at persuading North Korea to abandon its nuclear program in exchange for security and economic benefits. These talks, also involving the United States, China, South Korea, and Japan, collapse in December 2008. 2011 to 2012, after a summit with then-Russian President Dmitry Medvedev in August 2011, Kim Jong-il passes away. His son, Kim Jong-un, assumes leadership of North Korea. In 2012, Russia forgives 90% of North Korea's estimated $11 billion debt. 2016 to 2017, Kim Jong-un accelerates North Korea's nuclear and missile tests. Russia supports stringent Security Council sanctions, including limiting oil supplies and clamping down on North Korean labor exports. 2018 to 2019, Kim Jong-un initiates diplomacy with Washington and Seoul to leverage his nuclear program for economic benefits. He also seeks to improve ties with traditional allies China and Russia to enhance his bargaining power. After his second meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump breaks down due to U.S.-led sanctions on North Korea, Kim Jong-un travels to Vladivostok, Russia, for his first summit with Putin in April 2019. While the leaders vow to expand cooperation, the meeting yields limited results. 2022, amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine, North Korea intensifies its weapons tests and accuses the United States of instigating the conflict. Pyongyang contends that the West's hegemonic policy provided a pretext for Russia to defend itself by sending troops into Ukraine. North Korea, alongside Russia and Syria, recognizes the independence of two Moscow-backed separatist regions in eastern Ukraine and hints at sending construction workers to assist in rebuilding efforts. Russia and China thwart U.S.-led efforts at the Security Council to toughen sanctions on North Korea due to its escalating missile tests. September 12, 2023, Kim Jong-un arrives in Russia to meet with Putin. He is expected to seek Russian economic assistance and military technology in exchange for munitions to support Russia's war efforts in Ukraine. The meeting follows Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu's rare visit to North Korea in July and his attendance at a massive military parade where Kim showcased long-range missiles designed to target the U.S. mainland.